As a newly appointed king, there's no surprise Charles is hiding something from us, right? Today we're talking about 10 secrets King Charles is trying to keep from us about his wealth. Starting off with number 10, now that King Charles is living a king-size life, how can we pretend there aren't any regal secrets he's keeping from us? After inheriting the properties from his mother, Queen Liz, Charles has been getting a lot more attention, and obviously we're gonna dig into the English wealth and their secrets. For a regular British citizen, an inheritance over $380,000 is taxed 40%. But King Charles doesn't have to pay anything on properties, jewels, and investments that probably are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Whatever happened to eating the rich? The royal treatment is getting out of hand. Having all this money and privilege on top of not having to pay taxes? Every day this family makes me wonder why I wasn't born a royal. But anyway, according to the British government, the monarchy needs sufficient private resources and a degree of financial independence from the government. Am I the only one who feels like the British government is sucking up to the royals? Or is everyone in the UK in some trance? Because considering their extremely problematic history, how are they getting away with all of this? It has to be a trance, right? Maybe that's what they're hiding from us. They might not even be royal. Maybe they just set up a whole castle, entrance the whole country just so they don't have to pay taxes. Honestly, I might be onto something. The same document explains that the British Crown is also not legally liable for income tax or capital gains tax. Personally, I think the British people should overthrow the throne at this point because taxes should not be reserved for regular citizens. But that's just me. Or what if they flipped and only taxed the extremely rich people? That is a society I would love to live in. On to number 9, the royal family is under few requirements to disclose details of its wealth, but all I'm gonna say is, if you wanna find out, it's not too difficult to go all Sherlock Holmes on the family. The family's communications with the government are exempt from freedom of information requests. Their official papers are kept secret by Britain's National Archives for at least 50 years. The lack of transparency has led anti-monarchy groups, including the Republic, to call the monarchy an unaccountable public institution that has the power, secrecy, and influence to willfully abuse its position. What do you guys think about that? Do you think they're abusing their position? Because I kind of agree. Without a change, many details of the royal family's private wealth may never be known. Facts about the Duchy of Lancaster's offshore investments were leaked back in 2017, and those detailed roughly $13 million in offshore accounts. I wonder what else could be revealed if more documents were suddenly leaked. Seriously, we need some investigative work done on this family. Other reports have suggested questionable foreign dealings or arrangements. Earlier this year, King Charles was accused of offering to help secure a knighthood for a Saudi national in response to a donation for his charitable foundation. Representatives of Charles did deny this, but it sounds a little suspicious to me. Counting down to number 8, historically speaking, having a claim to the throne has been a big deal. Wars have been fought over who has the most right to rule, and even if it is less significant to everyday people, the royal family takes this very seriously. If they were not the legitimate heirs to the throne for some reason, then they'd be just regular folks who'd have to find a house to rent somewhere. If only. By and large, no one questions the legitimacy of the royal family, but there has been some potential for disruption thanks to DNA analysis of a body found in a parking lot. After King Richard III was struck down in battle in 1485, his body was laid to rest at Greyfriars Abbey. But a lot can happen in over 500 years, and the abbey, along with the king, were more or less forgotten. So much that his grave ended up being under an office building parking lot. Other bodies have been discovered over the years on the property, and it was known to have once been the site of the abbey. During a DNA analysis to confirm his identity, it turned out to be Richard. But listen to this plot twist. The Y chromosomes in the DNA analysis don't match others in the royal line. Gasp! Who is the imposter? So, quick biology lesson for you guys to help break this down. The maternal line was used to identify the remains of Richard, but if the Y chromosome passed down from the male side doesn't match, it means somewhere in the family line there may have been an affair. Someone at some time gave birth to a child not of the royal line, or pretended the child was legit. This is the real English tea of the day. Drop in the comments who you think the imposter child was, because theories could get interesting. Since we can't know when this affair may have occurred, there's no way to know when it affected the family line. So maybe the current royals are the real deal, or maybe they aren't. Down to 7, ever so often the ruling class get compared to vampires for their habit of living off the people over whom they rule. So there were likely a few critics of the royal family, and King Charles in particular, who would be delighted to discover that the king is literally related to Dracula. Spooky. If Hotel Transylvania makes a new movie, I know who they can incorporate into the plot. Or even better, have as a voice actor for a new character. Matter of fact, I should pitch this idea to Sony ASAP. In real life, Bram Stoker is believed to have based his famous vampire in part on Vlad Tepes, in the 15th century Romanian prince. Vlad earned himself the nickname Impaler due to his penchant for sticking enemies on sharp poles. So the story goes. Fast forward to the present, and King Charles is a distant relative of the Romanian prince. He's Dracula's great-grandson 16 times removed. Prince Charles was apparently very stoked to learn this and has a soft spot for Transylvania, the region made famous by Dracula. So now I'm gonna have to go explore my family tree to see if I'm related to any historic or iconic people. On to number 6, speaking of crazy conspiracies, word on the street is Jack the Ripper, one of history's most notorious assassins, may have been a royal. His identity was never determined, and even to this day, over a century later, people are trying to piece it together. Back in the day, one potential suspect was Prince Albert Victor. What is going on with this family? First Dracula, now Jack the Ripper? This royal family has some explaining to do because it is just getting out of hand. They cannot keep getting away with it. Another theory was that the British royal family wanted specific women taken out because they knew the prince had an illegitimate son. That is some tea. Neither of these theories had any evidence to support it, and they appeared nearly a century after the fact. The result is that it's almost entirely unlikely, but still something the royal family is not likely to ever openly address and would rather keep on the down low. Let me know if you think this theory is valid. I mean, the possibilities are endless, right? Down to number 5, celebrities really do the weirdest things ever and we just accept it because, well, they're celebrities. But traveling with your own bag of blood is just a different level of weird. Even though the reasoning is not the craziest, you have to admit adding a bag of blood to your travel checklist is just so bloody interesting. In case of emergencies, King Charles and Prince William travel with a sack of their own blood on hand. The royals travel with their physician and a bag of their own home brew in case of an emergency transfusion. But hey, I can't blame them. For a good portion of her busier years, the Queen was making about one state visit per year. But Prince William was a bit more widely traveled. Blood only has a shelf life of about 42 days after it's been bagged up, so they were probably getting fresh stuff for each and every trip. That's a lot of needlework. I wonder what they would have done if someone had a serious fear of needles. Number 4 on our countdown, in 1837 the historic Buckingham Palace became the official residence of the British sovereigns in London. This 700-room palace also serves as the venue for many royal events and ceremonies. I would expect them to throw events at a literal palace, so this isn't too shocking, but I wonder how many secret doorways they have, and do any lead to Narnia, because that might just be the next thing I do when I ever go to London. Sneak my way into every corridor to find out where the secret passages would be. Who's coming with me? The palace has 19 staterooms, 52 royal and guest bedrooms, 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices, and 78 bathrooms. It also has a cinema, indoor swimming pool, post office, chapel, a doctor's surgery, and even a cash machine. Having a literal post office in your house is just a next level flex. Maintaining a palace of this size obviously requires a lot of time, money, and staff. With more than 800 workers employed, there's a job for everything in this house. Among the more unusual jobs, there are 2 full-time clockmakers. The palace has more than 350 clocks, so if you ever need to know the time, you will have a clock somewhere in the vicinity. What a relief. Number 3 on our list, can we talk about King Charles's privilege? Being a rich white man is one thing, but add royal into the mix and he really is set for life. Becoming king after the late Queen Liz's impressive 70-year reign is definitely a privilege, and King Charles is very careful about what about this lifestyle he chooses to show with us regular folk and what is kept behind closed doors. There's one place that His Majesty can likely be found, on his hands and knees in his personal Highgrove house gardens. The garden at Highgrove really does spring from my heart, and, strange as it may seem to some, creating it has been rather like a form of worship, the royal said in 1993. On On to number 2, what's the point of all this wealth if you can't share it with your future generations? Nothing is more magical to a young child than a secret treehouse. Originally built for Princes William and Harry, Charles recently renovated the area for the newest generation of the little royal youngsters. The rustic playhouse is in a woodland area known as Stumpery, surrounded by toadstools and stone steps leading up to the playhouse entrance. This sounds like a fairy tale, and I'm going to need to schedule a playdate so I can go explore this cute treehouse. So who's coming with me? Last on the list, there's one question that many have wondered. Do the royals cost the government money, or do they make it money? For one, the royals draw tourist dollars as well as publicity for Britain. In 2017, it was estimated that the monarchy boosted the tourism sector by more than $640 million. While the sovereign grant has been growing, which means more money for the royals, the Crown Estate provides a huge sum of money to the government. Anti-monarchy groups don't really think the royal family brings in money. These groups might be onto something since they suspect that the monarchy actually costs the country about $400 million a year. Apparently it costs the government over $100 million annually to protect the royal family. Word on the street is that King Charles is trying to slim down the monarchy with fewer senior royals. He also talked about opening up more royal properties to the public, a move that could theoretically bring in more revenue. I can't see how this might be a smart business move, but I still do think the anti-monarchy groups might be onto something. That's all for today's top 10. Let me know what secret was the most surprising to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you next time on The Rich Life.